Once upon a time, a little girl became very sick and lost all her memories. She was empty as the day she was born. But in that dark emptiness, the voice of God spoke, "Walk, talk, heal." And by grace through faith, she did. Soon, the girl was even fuller and more alive than before her forgetting. But the voice of God continued to speak to her, and soon he commanded, "Heal others as I have healed you. Teach them the power of faith, that it may connect them to me and my power." My name is Robin Renee Wilson, and that little girl was me. For the last 35 years, through my relationship with God, I have participated in many miracles of healing, prophecy, and deliverance. None of these should be possible, but that is God's way. You can accomplish anything, heal the deepest wounds, and create doors where there were only walls, if you simply trust in faith over facts. Welcome back to Faith Over Facts. I'm your host, Robin Renee, and today I have with me this lovely couple, Gabriel and Leenyque. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
I'm excited to have you guys. I was like, okay, did her hair for her wedding day and everything. Leenyque has been in my life for over 20 years. Yes. It's been an amazing journey. She was like one of my assistants in the, and I'm just so excited to have you and your just beautiful, lovely husband. I've been knowing Gabe for 10 years now. It's about 10 years,
From day one.
Yes.
She was mentioning you every time she needed her hair done. So been to the shop a number of times.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you both here today. Love and balance. Let's just talk about just how do you find balance with love, family, and just being married? How do you find balance in that?
I think you kind of adjust as time goes on. Initially, you don't have kids, so we were able to move around as we needed and no problems there. And then as you have kids, that's when it starts to become more difficult to kind of adjust. I know for sure when we first started having kids, I think the first one was fine. We were kind of like, okay, we can adjust, we can figure this out. When we had our second one, that's when it was just like,
eye-opener. Yes.
What is going on? How are we going to find time with work, our own personal agenda, and then our families and all kinds of stuff going on? So I think now it's just more so knowing what works for us. For example, he worked overnights. I want to say for maybe the first 5 years of our marriage, he worked overnights, and that was extremely difficult because, of course, he's working overnights, he's coming home, and either he wouldn't sleep and be cranky, or he would sleep the whole day and then wouldn't be able to participate.
Yes.
And so I still remember us praying like, Lord Jesus, we need another time schedule adjustment. We didn't think he was going to do it like he did, which was, we'll tell that story later. But he made it work, and so now he has his schedule more so lines up with mine. We're able to kind of figure it out. We try to tell each other things ahead of time. Yes. And then we have an amazing support system.
I'm telling you, wow.
And
so that's important.
Very.
Oh my gosh.
Very.
Even right now, our kids are with my mom.
And I just love your mom.
Oh my gosh.
She's one of my biggest fans in my support system. So she's just a great support. I just love her so much.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I love your mom. How many years have you guys been married now?
Be 9.
In April.
Wow. It's coming April.
That's beautiful. 2 kids and beautiful son and daughter. I mean, their kids are gorgeous. Just gorgeous.
They are.
Thank you
I'm a little
so much.
biased, but they are.
Yeah, they really are. They're so cute. So, wow. So, congrats. Almost happy anniversary. It's coming up. Happy anniversary.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so, Gabe, I know that you was in between jobs at one point. So let's talk about just the hardship of just being in between a job and that, and how did it affect you? Because Leenyque kind of told me a couple little things, and I said he's amazing. So how did you handle that?
Well, I don't know how much. Well, we talk often, so I know what her take on it was, and she says a lot of things, and I'm not really quite sure where she got it from, but I thought it was one of the more profound things that she often says is that we're each other's mirror. So that's very, very true when it comes to marriage, because you're spending so much time with a person. That she knows a lot of things about me before I even pick it up on myself. And then if you have a woman, or if you have a wife rather, who is very interested in you, not just interested in the sense of like she acknowledges that you're there, but interested in the sense of I know you, I see you, and I'm watching you. You sort of kind of know how you're adjusting to life based on their responses and her responses and things like that. And so for myself, I don't know how out of that space I am yet. It's much like everything that we've been through. We kind of just sort of, once you find out you're in it, you're just sort of going through life and you're just doing it and you're figuring it out every day. And so I think a lot of my struggles came early on because I have a tendency to withdraw, especially when I feel sort of pressure mounting, and also when I feel like I'm not being heard, I guess you could say, or at least my feelings are not being properly represented. And so my take on how I navigated that space is probably going to be different than hers. But I think, to the most credit for where we are now, which is a pretty good space, with the benefit of hindsight, I think that I was okay. I think it was okay. If I had to rate it 1 through 10, I'd probably give myself a strong 6.5, 7 maybe, because there were plenty of times where I would come in and I was completely emotionally unavailable, as she would say. Some of it was to the credit of my sleep schedule at the time, and some of it was to the sort of me just mentally checking out, because I didn't like where I was as an individual. And so I ran into problems with checking out or being in the house but just not being there.
Present.
And she would bring these things up and we would fight a little bit about them, because every time you hear someone, when you're at a space where you don't like where you are mentally or, financially or whatever the case may be, and you're trying to check out, you are taking yourself out of, effectively, the room. And you have someone basically at the door, figuratively speaking, saying, no, you can't do that. You have to work this out. There's a family around. And so many of our earlier arguments came from that. I wanted to check out because I felt like this is how I best deal with my own individual emotions. And then her reinforcing the idea of what marriage is supposed to be. It's like, well, you don't get to do that anymore.
That's so good.
And so it was a tough lesson, but I was able to come around. And then I think, opportunities started to come that sort of they helped my process, because I wasn't coming in with the same mentality, but that was a pretty tumultuous season in my life. And so it didn't stop there. So it was how I, even back to what you were saying initially about how we found balance. Me personally, I don't give myself that much credit, because all I know is how I felt. And I did not feel well. I did not feel well mentally. I did not feel well financially. I did not feel well as a husband. I felt inadequate. And so what I was trying to do every day was just not screw things up in a way.
That's so good.
I don't think there was a healthy place for me to be, but that's how I got through it. I woke up every day and I took from the things that she would highlight about what I was doing and how I may have navigated the day before. And I just tried to keep it in mind, keep considering. She said, hey, when you left to your car to go do what you do, she didn't like that. Maybe come in 30 minutes after 30 minutes. Don't try to stay as long outside and make her feel like. And so there was just so many things.
That's so good. That's so good that she paid attention.
Right.
Because so many husbands, or spouses, they don't pay attention into what the other spouse is saying, which she needed from you or the family needed from you.
Right.
So you said, I might not be able to provide it this way, but at least I can provide what she's saying that she needs from me now.
Right. Right.
Which is powerful. That shows how good of a man you are. Like, you are a mighty man to be able to say, okay, well, let me just tap into what I can tap into. That's good.
And I think the balance in that sort of found itself in a sense, because we didn't really know when we found a balance. And we don't even know now if we found like a balance, because, we just know that there's been a significant amount of time between this really dark place that we were at, that we both knew that we were at, and now. There's been some time in between those two. But the balance, and it found itself, we kind of have a commitment to each other, kind of. We have a pretty evident commitment to one another. And so as we're committing to one another in a day-to-day, the balance just finds itself. It's like even right down to the childcare. You know, who's picking who up on the daily basis. That has to be balanced because those days need to be planned out. Those things can be potential arguments, especially after the day when she's been working all day and I've been working all day, and then things need to still get done. There's a balance that you got to find in there. Her family are very involved in our children's lives. So is mine. There needs to be balance there. There needs to be a even amount of give and take. So you know who we're gonna let have the kids this week, or if we're gonna allow them to go anywhere. And so as we sort of pour into one another, the balance, I guess you could say, finds itself.
I love that. So, yeah. That's so good, Gabriel. Oh, Gabriel, that was good. Wow, I love how you broke that down. And I think that, and for you to be strong enough to say, hey, babe, it's not gonna work.
Oh yeah.
Because some women are weak. And they're not strong enough to say, babe, you know, this is not going to fly. Because you wanted your marriage to work. Because you knew if it continued down that, it wasn't going to work. That showed how much you loved and respect your husband and your family.
And I think that I think God knows me and God knows him. And so when we first started out, we started off as best friends. And I think that was key, especially for me and the type of person I am, because we built that relationship where we were very candid with each other. Like, he was my best friend, I'm his best friend. We telling each other like truth. It is. One of his sisters, I can't remember which one, but they said when we first started, like, just talking as friends, they would walk into the room like, who's that talking to you? Like, because you, like, I guess I was going in on that day. And they were just like, oh, okay. And so they would just keep walking, but they knew the type of person their brother was and the type of person that I guess we would say needed. So even in that, it just kind of goes through. Now, sometimes I am harsh and it's comes with, you know, being seasoned and knowing each other more and more, to where now we have a balance of how we communicate. And so just talking to each other, and then even sometimes I'm like, and he doesn't like it because it kind of roles reverse, where I'll not necessarily shut down, but I'm like, babe, I need some time right now because I don't want to lash out at
That's
you.
That's good. That's healthy.
And so now he's like, sometimes he's like, no, I want to talk about it now. He's like, okay, let me give her space. And so that gives us that time to kind of like regroup. And so when I do talk to him, I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, because if you don't give her that time, she might say something that she does not mean, and she will regret, and she can't take it back.
Exactly. And I don't, that's the last thing I want to do is chop him down or make him feel inadequate or anything like that. Even the last year, I explained to him, I was like, you don't have this right now. You don't have a job. You're not able to show up right here. But I'm like, you've been so supportive of the family.
Yes.
Like, just how we've been able to navigate. He's been more present. And so just all these other things started to show.
That's beautiful.
And I'm like, I saw the effort. And so I'm like, this is lacking, but right now I'm like, we've gained so much throughout this last year.
Because God was allowing him to see the other side of him that he had to offer. Because a lot of times, sometimes God closes doors, and I think we don't realize that. But Isaiah tells us, you know, in 22, that God will close doors that nobody can open, but he will open doors that nobody can shut. But, you know, we are on his shoulders. And I think a lot of times we do not allow God. We think, oh, that door was closed, it's bad. No, God is grooming something else in that moment. Why did he shut the door? Why did that door have to end? Because he has something greater. But in that meantime, what is he developing? What is he strengthening? And what he was doing was he was showing Gabriel who he was on the other side. Something that he probably would have never was been able to see within himself, or you even saw within him, if he would have been working, because it would be that everyday schedule. The everyday, so it's that repeated thing, cycle. But by him being able to take time and say, okay, I'll step back, and like, oh, I really don't like where I am right here, which is amazing, because some men they're not like that. So he was like, I don't like that. I don't like this person that I am right now, where I am right now, but let me embrace who I can't see myself the way I need to see myself, but thank God you had you to show him, no, but baby, you are this, you are that. Giving him affirmations and building him up, and even telling him when he was wrong. And I think some people are so weak, they can't tell. I'll tell my husband, baby, that no, it's not cool. And my husband will tell me, Rob, that's not good. You know, and I need, that's part of communication, to be able to communicate when it's right and when it's wrong, and still know that I love you enough. You know, I think that's so important. And giving your spouse that time to just decompress, take a moment just to chill, think it through. Because sometimes it can be us, and we don't want to put that on your spouse. So let me just kind of just get this, or is it me? Is it him, Lord? Is it, what are you doing in this? And I like that you guys gave each other that space. And he said, no, I'm going to talk now because he loves you. He cares about how you feel. But at the same time, he still respects you enough to say, let me give her a moment. I think that's just like so bomb. And I think that was part of one of the things I wanted to, how do you respect each other's needs? How do you listen to each other's needs? But basically, you guys are just doing it by paying attention to one another and how you flow. Body language, the way he's responding. Baby, you out there a little too long. I know you need your man cave because we all know men need their time alone. And, but babe, can you just come in? Because I need you too. The family needs you too. And you said, okay, I'm cool with that. And I love how that's how those dark times, you don't need to be isolated. That's the devil's advocate. I mean, that's the territory. He'll just take full range and make you feel worse than you really felt if you know, stay in those dark places and isolate yourself in those dark seasons. He's like, no, I need you to come on to the light. Come on to us. Come on where the love is. Come on where, you know. And I think it's so good that that happened. You shared something that was so good. You shared how Gabriel was your best friend, you know. And so Gabriel, so let's talk about that. Like, you know, like you married your best friend. How did you get to a place where you're like, no, I'm attracted more to you than just my friend? How did that work out for you?
That happened a long time ago. We met at church. And we hit it off. And I didn't know, I was really young. I'm about 3 years younger than she is. But the community that I grew up in was a very religious community. And I didn't see what the example even that we're sort of living out right now, I didn't see that in my own home.
Okay.
And so I desired that. And I desired that really early on in my life.
So you knew what you wanted.
And I knew what I wanted. I just did not know who and how I would eventually get it.
Wow. Okay.
But the serious relationships in my life, I approached with that mindset. And once I met her, I guess the thing about it that was so, beautiful in the end is because it's not how it started. When I first initially met her, it was mutual friends. We all hung out. We liked the same type of things. And everything that our connection was effectively sort of regular. It's platonic. It wasn't in either direction. And then I went through a period of my life where my relationships with my other friends started to sort of wane. And then it got down to where it was this weird, really crazy space in my life around 2010, 2011, where I found myself with effectively only one friend, and it was her. And she wasn't even around at the time. She was in college. And in that time, I never really was like, yo, I just love this girl. You know what I mean? It just sort of happened organically because I lost everyone else in my own sort of personal friend circle.
I don't love that, but I love how God moves.
Right.
I love how God shifts, moves out the way so you can really see. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah. And so in our beginning started off very rocky. But before we even got into that point, it was sort of I began to fall in love, and I found, again, with the benefit of hindsight, I know this now, that at that time I fell in love with her consistency. She was the furthest person from me. She's 12 hours away, but she was always there. Spoke to her every single day. And we weren't all like first 6 months, it wasn't even like flirting. I remember when I first told her that I had feelings about her, even that went through a period of testing because she didn't feel the same way at the time.
That's what I was going to ask you. Did you feel a certain way for him? Not just you loved him
at that time. I felt like she was out of my league, and I was like kind of jumping off a ledge, even doing it. I was very confused. At that time, I didn't even really understand how I felt about her, but I just knew I felt strongly about her. And to her credit, she was honest with me, and she was like, "We're friends, we're friends." And I'm
and
not
thank
there
God
yet.
you didn't take it personal.
Right.
You know, some men would have. That goes back to the kind of man you are. Like you are. I call you the mighty man. But you know that you did not take that personal, and you still stood. You knew you still was man enough to say, I'm still going to be your friend. I'm still going to love you as a friend, even if I can't have you that way. I love that, Gabriel. That's
But it gave me time. I want to say I didn't like it when it happened. I was very hurt. And I mean, the first time we kissed, she doesn't count it as our first kiss, but it was in the backseat of her, I believe it was her sister's car. And what we would do was, and how we became so close friends is every time she would come from college, we would go somewhere. I'm in town. Like, we're going to go to First Friday, food truck, and we just go eat food trucks. Or we're going to go see a movie. Or we're going to go to, a concert, Christian rap concert. At the time, we were both heavy into Christian rap, and so we would go to things like that. Okay. And then there were a lot of times where she would just take me, I'm, city boy from Compton, project living for most of my life up until I got to be an adult. And so I hadn't really seen much. I seen a few places, but I hadn't really seen much. Being with her, I seen a lot more of even LA. Okay. Places that I never would have, restaurants that I've eaten at, even like small gyms and things like that, like Venice Beach back in the day. Yeah. I didn't really know. I wasn't there. I hadn't been there, and I didn't have many friends, at least not at that time, that I could share those moments with. And she was that person for me. And that there was like was it 4 or 5 months? It felt like a lifetime, but it was like about a 4 or 5 month sort of period where I'd already told her I liked her. She had respectively rejected. And I had to just sort of, it didn't feel weird. But I had to tough it out. And I went right back into my whole, all right, well, that's cool. Obviously my pride was hurt. Yeah. But I was just like, all right, cool. She was all I had. And so I felt like if me and her, if I lost her because she didn't want to be with me, I wouldn't have had nobody else.
I love how God. I want to say. I kind of want to. I want to jump into it.
Go ahead.
But I want to say something like. So, did you? So after you guys got together, did friends start just coming in?
Oh,
isn't that crazy? Like,
it was a rough. It was a rough.
rough.
You want to?
I'll try to do the filtered version.
Cliff Notes.
Yeah, Cliff Notes. So the way everything happened was because our churches are so tight knit. Okay. So there were other people in the congregation that he had dated before. There were other people in the congregation that I had dated before. And so the way it happened was everybody just assumed we were friends, which we were. And the person I had dated kind of sensed that something was going on at the time, but really wasn't nothing because, like he said, I really wasn't interested in the beginning. But as time had went
once
on,
it went public, it was.
But yeah, so we were kind of like when we got together, it was he was serious about me, and that's what was new for me, and that's what I was just like, you know what? Let me give this a chance because people would give me the time of day, but they weren't serious about me, about being in a relationship with me, about really like.
Because it's so good. He was serious.
Yeah,
you felt it. And that's
exactly.
That's why I didn't want to jump because that's what I was waiting for. Because one of the things that I have found is that you need a man to love you more than you love him. Women, we can automatically fall for you and love you because we're emotional. But your husband, he's in your person, need to love you more. So that it can, I don't know, something about this older lady told me that she's gone to be with the Lord now, but she said, you need your husband to love you more than than you love him. Because you can always grow to love your husband like he loves you because how he treats you. And that's why when I was listening to the story, and I didn't know this story until today, but I love it because that's what I was going for. Like, once she was like, hold on, there's something about, hold on. Like, But you didn't run because you could have said prideful, feelings hurt, I'm out. But God had it to where your friendships was like, but she's my real friend. And then you
go ahead.
No, that's good.
Because I was going to say, at the time, I tried to pursue other situations. I kind of put it back in my mind. I was like, okay, struck out. That kind of hurt my pride. I was pretty sick about it. But I didn't want to let her know. And I don't think I did sort of put that weight of how disappointed it.
Yeah, you did because you loved her.
I kind of was when just like.
When you love them and that's,
I knew how I felt. And I personally, I was devastated. But I kind of felt like, okay, well, I don't want to shame her into like kind of digging me or whatever, give me some sort of a pity date. I wanted to be genuine.
Authentic,
and so after a couple of days of me kind of sulking a little bit, I was like, all right, cool, whatever. And so I had sort of tried to, I put us back in friend mode mentally. And then it was easier because, like I said, she was away and there was some distance, and so there was like I didn't have the opportunity to sort of force my hand and kind of love bomb her and get all in her faces and things like that. So I had the space to pursue other situations. At that time in my life, I had no business pursuing any relationship with anybody, and that is kind of a good thing because I learned that about myself in that time when she had to tell me that, because had she told me right then, like, oh yeah, let's do this thing, it was so premature. I had to grow up a little bit at the time. I wasn't done with a couple of my habits and things like that. And so it gave me a little space to kind of figure it out and clean it out.
That's so good.
And then we went strong for, even once we were able to get together, we were placed in a position socially where there were so many people around us in our immediate circles that felt like they were family and that they could speak to certain things, which is completely normal. And I don't really fault in hindsight. It didn't feel great at the time, but and some of these people were family. Like you regard them as family, and so you it was difficult navigating that space, allowing everybody to have their voice and respecting that family is going to have something to say about the important decisions you have in your life, whilst also recognizing that their opinion is theirs.
That's good.
And the person that you ultimately are going to want to build something with is going to come down to you too. So it was almost like sort of by force, based on the reactions that we started to sort of see in not circles that you could avoid, places like church, places like, after church when we're all kicking it, people you can't avoid, people that you consider, in my case, like sort of aunties and uncles or things like that, who have this access to you, but they don't recognize that they are sort of overstepping their boundaries in a sense. And so we struggle with that. I failed her in a couple of key aspects because I wasn't able to navigate the amount of information that I disclosed to my family. And, family is family. And they talk to other family. And so I would say certain things and I would be made to feel like, oh, well, that's how, just people having too much access to speak on your relationship. And it pushed us, one second, babe. It pushed us in a situation where we were all we had. So we couldn't go nowhere. And so it was like, all right, this person stopped talking to me. I don't go around my aunties because I don't really, for example, I don't go around these people in my family no more. So because I already know how they feel. And so it was just us. And that's kind of like, I don't know. We didn't have anywhere else to go because everybody else seemed like they kind of.
Yeah.
But go ahead, I'm sorry. I don't want to cut you off.
People will give their opinion.
But what I was going to say is I think it was his godmom that helped navigate that part of our relationship. Because really, really new. We were still really, really young. And it was just her just like letting us know, you don't have to tell everybody everything. It is okay.
Because they going to remember when you move on, my mother would say, when you move on and you forgave them, the family members is gonna still remember and bring that up. Like, remember when he did? You long forgot all about all of that, and they bring it up, and that's why sometimes keeping the family out of it is so much better because they gonna point fingers. He did or she did, and I wouldn't. No, what works for me and my husband works for me and my husband.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean? And me and my wife is me and my wife. Stay out of our stuff because people, and it's okay sometimes, but sometimes they don't need to be in your business.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And I think this is go back to what you were saying about that balance. This is one of the ways we found it. Just conversations that you would have and people that you would trust with certain information that you learn, like, that should have only been to my partner. And you got a chance to get that in trial and error. Like, couple conversations you might say, oh, well, this is what we're going to. You learn, okay, well, I can't take my problems to this person. Okay, cool. That's that balance because now you're cutting off certain avenues that you know are not helpful, and you're redirecting them to you shrink your circle, shrink the amount of people that you go to for counsel. Watch the people
you need wise counsel.
you go to.
The Bible says wise counsel.
Everybody that's in your life that loves you, that cares about you, does not deserve an opinion about everything that you do. Some things you need to just say, all right, let me go ahead and go to my trusted, my one, that person that I've watched and I've admired. It's a big one. I've seen it work in their life.
There it is.
And so now I have even more of a reason to go to them for counsel, as opposed to before, when we were in the situations that we were in. Family feels like, we just gonna all walk up and let me pull you to the side, let me holler at you. It's like, nephew, let me holler at you. Well, no, you know. And so it helped us find that balance in regards to what we disclose to other people about what we're going through. You get what I'm saying? And so it was good. A lot of that balance in that came from hardship. I mean, a lot of the balance that we found as far as how we relate to other people, we found that through hardship. And then even how we relate to one another, we found that through hardship. You don't find balance until you're aware of who you're with. Wife is very aware of who I was, and it equipped her to be able to deal with me in the areas where I was sort of moving in a way that she didn't like. Because I've been watching you. I'm aware, and so it starts with awareness, and we found those things out about each other in those earlier stages, and it helped us later.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
And it went from a emotional high. We started off with an emotional high. We really were, because we leaned so much into each other because of those circumstances, it made us really close. And so by the time we broke up, got back together, broke up, and got back together, by that last time, we were 2-3 years older. We were 2-3 years more experienced. We were 2-3 years closer. And so when I finally made up our minds and that we were going to get married, I proposed to her and everything like that, we started off emotionally like it was.
I remember that.
The first 3 or 4 years, like a lot of my boys, they didn't see me. We had this cute apartment in Montebello borderline area, East LA.
There you go.
East LA / Montebello area, and it was just us. It was us. We were living our little, young, only us love story. And then that was about 2-3 years. Had our first kid.
That was 6 months.
Yeah, no. I'm saying that was as far as the whole process. We moved back with my mother. We had our first son. He came a little earlier than we expected, but we were good with it where we were. And then we finally got our first place. And it went from emotional high, me never being out with my friends, never really seeing them because it was just us. Everywhere we went to, the fair was 7-Eleven for Slurpees. Like we were everywhere. Like that's kind of how we were. And we transitioned from that into a situation where it wasn't a high no more. It wasn't very high. It was like, okay, I kind of don't like you as much as I thought. The first kid is here. You spend so much time with each other, and then you start to, I think that's around the time where we both started to sort of want to carve out those times away from each other.
That's good.
It's where it started.
That's balance too, finding balance too.
Right.
Because I think it is, you do have that emotional, like that honeymoon stage.
Yeah,
right? You have that
we
honeymoon.
were in each other's face.
Yeah, yes. And then it's healthy to be able to say, okay, I need to be with my friends, you need to be with your friends.
But to that part, that's where for me was hard, because for him he's just like, okay, yeah, I want to take a step back, I want to start hanging with my friends, which at first I'm okay with, but then for me it started to become a little bit too frequent, and I wasn't yet in that space. I think it took me maybe about 2-3 years for me to be like, okay, let me carve out my space for my own. But it was hard.
Well, because you guys were best friends, so you guys did everything with each other. So that part, and then so now, wait, what do you mean you don't want to? But I think that it wasn't that you're not my best friend anymore. It's just that now I feel safety here. Now I can go, you know what I mean? I think God wanted you guys to have that bond, really to get to know each other even more deeper as husband and wife now. Now you have family. And then he's just kind of like needs, like my husband's he just needs to just go somewhere men just need they just need
some
to be
space.
Yeah,
just space.
And it's not that, it's not us. And I think when we realize they're not trying to get away from us, they just need to go to I'm not gonna say it's a club or wherever they need to go. to listen to some music, play cards with friends, or just play a video game, whatever.
Reset.
Just reset and then come back. It's never, and I think that as long as it's being done with respect, you know, they need that, and we need it too. We need that girl time as well. But I think because you don't want is I say sometimes when you only have your boyfriend, or you only have your girlfriend, or you only have your wife, you only have your husband, and you don't really branch out to have another friend. Even when you go to the doctor always say, okay, so what activities are you doing? What friendships do you have?
Right.
You know, when they do the little checklist, they probably doing it with your kids. I don't know if they do it with your kids yet, but they have a checklist because they want to make sure that you're healthy, because friendships and other relationships is a healthy place to be in. You need to make sure that you have someone outside of your spouse. Because, you know, but I love the fact that God got you both to a place where you already have set your boundaries. You already have found balance in with one another. Like, okay, we can't share all of our business with these people. So I know I'm going to just hang out. I'm not going to just badmouth you, or, you know.
And we had my mentor couple, they were in close proximity to us still at that time. And so we had people that we could go to. And we took a lot of our arguments there to them. And I think that is also very, very valuable if you're trying to work on a balance with respecting one another's opinions in a way certain situations feel for the other. Because one thing I really learned between me and my wife is that although we're very, very close, she is my mirror. There are a lot of instances in our marriage where although we are going through the exact same circumstance, we are taking two completely different situations or perspectives from it.
And I started telling her, I was like, did you call your mentor? Like,
Right.
I was like, I need you to talk to somebody else.
That's so good.
So finding
That's good.
just pouring into each other is not enough, because what happens when you are pouring and giving and you find something you don't like, or at least in my case, you find something that you're not quite ready to, where something has been identified in you that you're not quite ready to give up yet. For me, it was the getting away. And then initially when I first started, just take for instance one example of things that sort of devolved into arguments where we needed to find balance, me going out. And I went from the first 3 or 4 years not going anywhere. My friends, never really seeing them. They had all these stories and stuff that they'd gotten. I would come around and, oh, Gabe, you wasn't there for that, ha ha, you know, stuff like that. And I was fine with it, because I'm like, man, I'm rocking. I got my wife, I'm good. And then after our first son, he was great, but our relationship started to, that's when we first started branding each other. Okay, she would say to me, okay, well, you're trying to escape. And then I would respond, well, you're being a nag. And that's when we got these labels with each other. And so now we have a situation where first started going out, my boy hit me up, I think it was a Sunday. Hey, you know, Gabe, we going to this bar down, you know, such and such. And she was very like, oh, yeah, go ahead. Because I wasn't doing that. And I wasn't really seeing my friends. And so she's like, yeah, go, babe, I got you. It worked a little too well, because I got out there and I'm like, man, dude, this is fun. I miss this. Like getting out here, I've been married 2-3 years right now. I feel like I should be able to kind of hang with my friends a little more. I think I bought that right. No, it didn't work out like that. And then I went through a period of excess where I was going, it was once every couple of months. And then what I didn't understand was I started to like it so much, I got out of balance because I was trying to go out every weekend.
Yeah.
For like a 3-month period, for like a whole summer, I was like, yo, man, we going to this spot, we going to that spot, you know. And I didn't see it, but she saw it, and she felt me not there. I didn't know what that was like, because
I was there with my husband.
Right.
Where I'm like, when you coming out, you know,
Exactly.
like,
And while
I
I
get
wouldn't-
it.
I
It was
wouldn't
our early stage.
Right. And while I wouldn't stay out too long, I was staying out, you know, I was going out a lot frequently. And then there was a situation where it's like, okay, well, some of these needs to be dates. She would say.
I like that.
And so
okay.
she was just like, yo, man, like, you're going out every day. Why do you want to go out with me? And I had to reckon with that. Like, is it you? And I had to realize that at that point, it was where I sort of began to try to escape from her. And it felt to her like rejection. And we argued. And the arguments were some of the arguments were very, very just like unproductive because we're just talking past each other.
But I think that what God showed me, he gave me a glimpse. It really wasn't that you were trying to escape from her. It was that you were like, okay, this is family, this is friends. I'm having fun over here. I have to provide, focus, be protector. It was work over there. So it was just kind of like I could just like, whew. Over there. And so it was just kind of like he really wasn't trying to leave you.
Right.
He was just trying to like...
The pressure, the situation.
Yeah.
And that's definitely what was it? Nah, it might have been like 3 years ago. We had that conversation where he finally was like, no, it's like, I got to do this. I got to, like, so it was the pressure. He's always feeling when he's in the house. It's just like, I feel like I have to do this, and this. And so for me, it was understanding like, okay, I have to shift my perspective because right now, yes, I feel like you're escaping me. But for him, he was like, no, it's just when I'm here, I feel this like over mounting pressure and expectation. And it was just like, we had to find a balance in that. Like, babe, I just expect you just to be here because we're in the same boat. And I think that's one thing we had to realize is we are really in the same boat.
Yes.
And you're not over there and, I'm on the Titanic over here feeling like, and then he's just cruising on a Princess cruise ship. Like, no, we're literally in the same boat. We just had to recognize that. And so even still to these days, we have those moments where when he first started the job he's at now, he's like, hey, can you do this? Can you do this? And I'm like, babe. Okay, things are shifting. You're talking out of exhaustion right now, and I understand that. We're still in the same boat, so we have to figure out how to balance this out.
Because when you involve, then now it's like you're trying to find out how do I. Okay, as you go to one level, balance that level. Then you go to the next level, you balance each level that you go to, and that's
exactly
deep.
Exactly. And I think that's
not always easy.
It's not. It can be hard, but now I feel like we're finding a little bit better balance with that. So now just like I tell him like, let me know what you have planned in advance so I know how to like maneuver around it. And so because it sometimes it'll be like, oh, well, I'm because he likes to do impromptu stuff sometimes, and I'm like, babe, I already had something planned on this day, but I didn't communicate that well with him. So now he's just like, oh, well, I told them that I'll go over here, and I'm like, okay, how are we gonna figure that out? Before it would be arguments, like you said, unproductive arguments, and now it's just like, okay, well, how are we going to figure this out? Can any of us shift to a different day, different time? Can you do this? Or, do we need to call somebody? And so now we found like, okay, now...
Healthy boundaries.
Refocusing, shifting around, and not feeling like, I think we said this before in our marriage, like we felt like we were each other's enemies sometimes in the way we would argue. And I'm like, babe, I love you.
Well, no, I think what it is too, you guys got married young.
Right.
See, a lot of people when you get married young, I get it. Me and my husband got married at 23. So we got married young.
Yeah.
So when you get married young, you grow and you together. Right. And I think a lot of times people don't realize that. They think, especially if they got married older or they was married before. So there's some things that they probably wouldn't go through. But when you get married young, you grow together. You're growing. So you're cultivating together, you're growing together, you evolving, it's just different forms of growth happening at the same time.
Right.
And it can be painful and it can be ugly. And I think, and sometimes it's not going to be a pretty picture of your discussion. It might be a little rough, but when you come back together, it's all about how you return back, together.
And I think now that we've got through probably one or the second biggest hurdle, it's beautiful. And that's why I tell people, I'm like, it's hard, but it's beautiful. Marriage
is very hard, but it's the best thing ever. And I think when you find the beauty, sometimes those hardest moments is what brings the prettiest. I don't know. I just feel like me and my husband, we just kind of went through a patch where it was like, and then when we came out of it, it was like, wow, I just love him. Like, he's just like, I love you. It's just a different, but because your love language changes, and my love language has shifted, and my husband's love language is the same. And so, but I'm like, no, but baby, I kind of want to need this now. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's nothing against what you're doing. But then I needed to elevate my love language to where, too. I can't expect, since mine shifted, that I need to make sure that I'm tapping even deeper in his, even though his stays the same. I need to elevate mine even higher for where his is. Right. You understand what I mean? And now when I'm like, we're good. But when I evolved to this, my love language has shifted. He's like, okay, that's cool, but I'm still doing what I always did. So I can't knock you, and then I don't want him to knock me. Find balance in it. And I think the whole thing in life is finding balance in your marriage and finding balance in what every level, your stage of your marriage you find yourself in. How do I find balance in that? You know, how I'm still gonna love you, because the love is never gonna change. It's gonna get even stronger, because that's what this is about. But it doesn't mean it's not gonna be work. It doesn't need to be done. You know, because it's work. Marriage is work. But are you willing to work?
Right. I think that's I think that's what you hit on just there. One of the ways that we were able to at least get through that, because like that wasn't even the end. It's not going to be the end. We're going to go through our more. I'm pretty sure we got our own fair share of struggles ahead of us as well. But I think the way we were able to navigate through that is, and it's something I've learned just being married, is that you'll never be able to get balance if you're too dug in on any one issue. Never dig too deep into one set mentality or preference or whatever it might be in your marriage, because at some point you're going to have to adjust. You're going to have to adjust, whether it's financially, you know, or if maybe you never go through financial hardship. It's going to be relationally.
Something.
Maybe,
health,
health
loss, family loss,
never
loved one.
Never have a personal preference that is too dug in. Obviously on the basics, right? No abuse, you know, infidelity, things like that.
Yes.
There are things that are non-starters, like non-negotiable, things like that. But outside of that, the things where your personality might come into play, or your love language might come into play, or your just sort of general, the way you want your house to be run might come into play. You won't be able to get a balance with a person if you're so dug in one direction that they are never able to prevail upon you at all. So, like even just taking that example of me wanting to talk out things. If I was so dug in on that and I dealt with arguments the same way I always have dealt with arguments, I don't think we would have ever gotten there. Because I would have always just walked away. I ain't got time to argue with you. I'm out of here. You know what I mean? Like she was, and in that time, I'd like to say that I went from being a very sort of passive husband initially into a couple of 3-4 years into the marriage, you realize like, okay, well, hold on, you got it too good around here. You know what I mean? Like that was my perspective. And so I felt like, okay, well, even in the going out, I feel like I've earned the right now to be more assertive and like, okay, well, nah, it ain't cool this time. I really kind of feel this way, and I kind of want to dig in this way because you know, I don't say nothing normal at the time, but that's not important. You know, that's just how you do things. What's important is how well you're able to adjust with when her needs and your needs clash.
That's good.
Are you willing to adjust? I wasn't for a lot of time. And especially after 3 or 4 years of marriage, you do feel like you bought a little bit of equity with the other person. Like, okay, look, man, I ain't been around my friends in 3 years, and now I done went out 4 or 5 times, and you tripping. Things like that, I had to learn to not take my own voice away because it's valid. And if you feel like that, some of that stuff, it was nothing wrong with with the way that I felt or wanting
It wasn't nothing wrong with you going out with your friends.
It was the way that I went about it. And it was where my mind was when I was sort of defending myself. Shouldn't have to defend myself to my partner because we're
Explain
partners.
why you're...
Right. I'm explaining to you what I feel like in this space would make me feel a little better. Are you willing to compromise? Okay, well, you're not willing to compromise. You feel like I've been out multiple times this week and I need to stay home tonight. Okay, is it worth going out and having a good time and coming back to you angry? Or should I just hang back? Can I stand to not go out tonight? You know, and those are the ways you find balance because it's just decisions. It's options, it's choices. Okay, I can deal with the upset wife if I do that. And maybe I'm right. And maybe her being upset is not right, and that's just something that but I'm adding an extra argument onto it if I go this way. And I know that I am. Is it worth it? Is it in my own best interest?
Wow.
Is it in my household's best interest if I take this liberty to stand in my rightness? Or is it better to bring it to the table? And learning in marriage, finding balance is always best to bring it to the table. Even if it's something that you feel like you shouldn't have to. That's marriage. I'm pouring into this other person. I'm not by myself. And so even if I have the best idea in the world, I got to run it by you.
So good.
You know, and
Can I
that's
say
where
something
you can
after
find. Go ahead, go babe.
one of the ways we got there is vulnerability. I think that was I still remember a lot of conversations where like we're both like super emotional, but not in a bad way, but we're just like breaking down. And I think those are those breakthrough moments where we're like, okay, like when I was pregnant with Leenyque, we had one of those moments, and he's just like, okay, I see where you're coming from.
It was rough.
That
Leenyque was rough.
Yeah, Leenyque's pregnancy was rough. And then maybe about 2 years ago, it was another one of those moments. And it started off as just me kind of like, I think he was having one of those moments where he's just like not there, but he's kind of coasting and just around. I'm like, babe, you got to talk these things through with me. And he had
But
one
like
of
he
those
said,
moments.
he was passive. So it's kind of like that was one of the things that I, because people say, you're not passive. Yes, my dad was passive. So I have both, my mom and my dad in me. My mom was more witty. She was more like straight shooter. I have a little bit of that in me, but I have my dad too. And so sometimes I can I don't want to deal with that. Let me just process and just hold it in. And so he had to, like, I can't just keep holding it in because she gonna run over me if I do that. Because with your personality, you're dominant. You have that, how you are neat. You know what I mean? You don't play. And so he had to find his balance. I can't be passive because I still need to be the man that I need to be in my marriage. But at the same time, I deserve the right to do these things. But yeah, how can I make sure she's not confident,
Empowered, I guess you could say.
yes,
Right.
at the same time as we both can win in this area.
Exactly.
And go ahead.
Oh, sorry, fish. And that came through him being vulnerable. Because for me, I'm just like, I just see this person who's just kind of moving about, and I'm just like, what is going on? I know his body language. I know he's like inside. He shuts down when he's shifting, and it annoys him sometimes. He's like, I'm okay, and I'm just like, you're not okay. And but it took those vulnerable moments where we're literally digging deep, and we're just like,
That's good.
like just all this stuff is coming out. And I'm like, that helps so much. He's like, I don't like it this way, but I'm like, I need that.
But you need that.
So I understand.
You need it too. You don't realize it. You need it too, but it's not always easy to do,
Never easy to do. But it on the other side of things, I understand a little bit more. I'm like, okay. And that, because I could be domineering. And so it helps me to kind of take a step back, like, okay, this is how he's feeling. So now when he's in those spaces, I'm going through this, hey, is this how you're feeling? Is this what's going on? He's just like, I don't know, but I think that is it. And it's taking him some time to kind of process, but it helps me move and navigate, like, okay.
Because you want your husband to be good. I don't care no matter what. Even though you want to be good as well, but you want your husband. If my husband's not good, I'm not good.
Exactly.
My day is not. I'm not having a good day. When if we had a disagreement or it didn't go flow, I'm not good. And I'm trying to, even though I'm at work, I'm trying to work through. I'm thinking about, is he good or he's trying to make sure I'm good. Yeah, when you love your spouse,
Oh, yeah.
it's if it's not good, you're not good. And you can't pretend to be something that you're not.
Oh, no.
And when you love a person for real, that true love, and you like he said, I know her, and you know him, and I think that's so important to get to know your spouse. And then one of the benefits is you married your best friend, and so and in that. Getting to the place like, okay, you're gonna go and hang out with your friends, and then like you said, you had to come and say, well, I have to hang out with mine too. Like, hold on, we can, now we both, because some your friends was probably missing you too, so it was kind of like,
Right.
And that's the thing. It's funny because now we understand. Like, he'll do maybe every other weekend. Now it's far less because we got 2 kids, we got jobs. Our lives are chaotic right now. Yeah. But I noticed he'll do, maybe once or twice a month. I'll build up my time and I'll be gone for a whole weekend.
That's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say. You just came back on a trip from with your best friend. So
exactly.
She's the going outer now.
Yeah.
More so. Neither one of us really leave the house most of the time. We kind of, we're together. We're a unit. And, but we carve out time now. Now we carve out the time.
We're very intentional now.
It's the balance that, and that's why I said, like, I can't give myself too much credit because the balance kind of found itself. And another thing is what I was saying about not digging in too deep on any one stance, because at that time, because of the amount of years, I felt like I was justified to go out and hang out, even if I felt like it was every week, which is a little bit irrational because you're a married
think about
couple.
it.
Yeah, you're a married couple. Like every week, 4 times a month doesn't sound like a lot, but 5 of those days.
Where did that leave her?
Right.
Then she's feeling like, well, man, you're not taking me out. I want to
Right.
I want to go
Theoretically, like 4 times a month doesn't sound like a whole hell of a lot of time away from your family, but if 5 of those days is spent working and dealing with the family, then it's really only those 2 days that you guys really have to kind of pour into each other most of the time, because my wife and everybody with the church and stuff on Sunday, you're kind of cutting that even in half. So it's like you got about a day and a half to really set some time for each other. And so it did look like irrational after a certain while. And I had to reckon with that. I'm like, yeah, kind of. And after a while, because I didn't dig too deep into that particular sort of like my right to go out as much as I want to, it left room for the way that my feelings changed about even going out. Like I realized that that was a phase in my life. I wanted to sort of, me and her weren't our arguments, things like that. It felt like pressure at home, and I just needed to get away from that. And so really I kind of just needed to get out of that space between the two of us. And it wasn't the going out. It really wasn't the going out. It was the feeling like when I'm around here, I'm being pressured. Once we got past that, and it was more so like, nah, bro, like you're not, this is us.
And you want to have peace in your home. That's so important. I think a lot of people, you want your house to be a place where you know you're going to have joy and peace. You don't want to be somewhere and it's like, you know. So when you've got family, you guys got to that place where, okay, let me just realize, I know because you're a man. It comes with providing and and being that protector and being daddy and being husband. But it's like at the same time, I just want to just be Gabriel. I just want to just chill.
And I wasn't at that time I didn't like where I was working, and I wasn't making the money that I felt like I should have been making. I was in a rebound from the COVID era after losing my job and things like that. I was kind of climbing myself back up. And so even in that moment, my ego sort of took a really, really big hit. And you don't ever want to, feel like, especially if you're not working or getting consistent employment, there's especially society, there's the stigma attached to you. And that's a dark place to be in when you feel like you're not contributing financially. Even if you're in the other areas, it kind of shows where we prioritize a lot of our feelings, because in those moments you feel like, okay, well, it seems like I'm doing the important stuff right. I'm a good father. My kids are safe. They're well fed. My wife feels loved. She feels cared for. But the check that I'm bringing home every month is not the amount that I want. And that alone is enough to make a man feel very, very inadequate. And I honestly, obviously sinking in that is not good, but I think that men should keep that level of that little fire under your pants. Like, nah, bruh, it's not okay to be at home chilling. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
everybody goes through things.
Stuff happens, but
it has to look like something. Your everyday life needs to look like something. And so we were able to find a somewhat of a balance even with that. Because she's the more structured one of the two of us. And that's what attracted me when we were dating, is I was very young. I was very immature. I didn't know a lot about the life that I was stepping out into after 18, 19, 20. I was very much so still trying to figure that stuff out. And all I had was her. And I used to look at her life and I was like, man, you got it. You got it. You got your stuff going on. Like you in college, and then you had the next step after college. It seemed like such a seamless transition into the career world and things like that. And so I'm like, I need that. I don't have it. I'm not as structured. I'm not as goal oriented. I'm impulsive. I got a lot of talents, but a lot of times I don't know which direction to apply them in. And so I can get to this place where I have a lot of unfulfilled commitments because I didn't plan it out. I had a lot of good ideas, but I didn't plan it out. And I knew that was who she was, and I wanted that in my life. And so in those moments in the marriage where I had to be open to seeing that, okay, well, maybe this is not her being overbearing. Maybe this is an area where she's more structured than you. She's a little more responsible than you. And so don't dig in too much. Maybe you're wrong. There were times where I was right, and then there were a lot of times where I was wrong.
And I like that. I like when you actually look into and examine, like, okay, hold on, why is this happening? What is this tension really coming from? And when you say, okay, I need to evolve in this area. I need to step it up, and then no, I'm cool here, but I need to do. That's good.
She was as gracious as she could be, I think. And there were times I noticed where her responses would get a little harsher and harsher. Listen, no one is the realities of what two married couples are gonna go through is like it individually. So like for a professional career, that impacts your partner. Your creative life, what do you do for hobbies, that impacts your partner. And so those things, when they're sort of falling off or things are not sort of sustaining the way you would want to, you got to get over the idea of this being sort of my thing. That's something I got to share with her.
Yes.
And so I can't be, I would have to say that like balance is the only option if we're going to keep this thing going. And you find that out pretty quickly once you start arguing with somebody every day. And then you realize, okay, we've argued every other day. Something's got to give. And after a while, even when the times where it's like a sudden jolt of love doesn't just overtake you after an argument, like no, like we don't talk to each other for about an hour or 2 hours. Some people, some arguments was overnight where we just was like, I went to bed mad and I woke up mad and stuff like that. But after a certain point, it's like there's something that kind of gets you back into this mode of like, okay, well, you can't live like this. You got to talk to him. You got to bring it to him. If it's my ego that I need to bring, I got to bring it. If it's, if I've been looking outside of my marriage or whatever, you got to bring that. Everything that you go through, everything though, when your love language changes, you got to bring that. And it starts with being aware of who you are with.
That awareness is so important. And I think that is so good, finding who am I? Because we change. We're evolving. It's evolution is happening. So when evolution happens, how do I adjust to it? I think that's really good. You guys had me cracking up earlier when you were talking about you guys like we're seasoned now. You guys, young couple, but you're seasoned. How did you guys find that? If you had to say, it's so funny. If you had to come up with a seasoning, what seasoning would you say that you are? What season? Like seasoning salt, Lori, seasoning salt. What?
I would say Lori.
Pepper, lemon pepper. What would you say?
Oh man.
Cajun.
He probably would say something like Cajun.
No, with her, it would probably be onion powder. Probably be onion powder because it's subtle, but it's there. If you've ever cooked with onion powder or garlic powder or something like that, it's fine. It's small. Gotta probably give it a couple layers, but if you don't have it,
that's good.
You know it's not there. It's like onion is a very distinct flavor. It's a very it adds its own thing to the dish, and it's not like a small thing. But you don't notice it all the time because you're like, it's just onion powder. Kind of think subconsciously like how necessary really is that. But anybody that knows how to cook, especially people that black folks, you know how important some things are to certain dishes. And so I would probably say that's her. It's like she's very subtle. She doesn't. It's like people when they meet her, it's not like it's like it's an oddly fulfilling experience. They feel like they've known her for a long time, and that's kind of how it is. She creeps up on you, but when she's not there, it's like her. It's evident.
Oh yes,
it's evident, and it's one of the things. Like another thing that attracted me to her is that aspect of how welcoming she is, how welcoming she is, but how much you could miss her if you were in the same room as her. If you're not like looking for the qualities that she has, you'll miss her.
That's good. That's good.
And it would be to your detriment, I think, in my perspective,
I love that.
I saw it, and I think that's one of the things that attracted me to her the most.
I love that.
In that moment is like she has no idea that she really liked that. She don't know. She just goes about life. She's just waking up. She's at school. She's with her friends and getting taken advantage of at times. But even by me, early on, I knew that I loved her, but I didn't know how to. And so I just thought like, yo, let me pull up, hug up on you, rev up on you. That was. I was 18, 19, 20 when we were dating. And so that was my idea. And that was the extent to which I could show my love, express my love. So the things that required a little more of me, the things that, the personal character development things, I wasn't there yet. And so we went through our time. And once I was able to get there, I wasn't even there yet when we got married, but I was ready. I wasn't there yet, but I was ready to get to another space in our relationship. And so with her, she's so subtle, but she's so evident. She's so there. And
onion powder.
I love that. I love that about her. I'm so attracted to that because I don't know. She's a very different portion of me. We're like two sides of the same coin. Because I'm good with not being there. I'm good with not being acknowledged. I kind of would like to float through life kind of without making any major impressions on people, especially if I don't really value what they have to offer. She's shown me that that's not always the way you want to live. You want people to see you coming and like, yeah. Like I pulled up at church. Some people you pull up at church and you're like, oh, okay, such and such came to church today. Some people you pull up, it's like, oh, such and such is here. Ugh. And then there's some people that you pull up with and you're like, okay, yeah. Church gonna be good today. We got all our folks in here. She's one of those people.
That's good. That's good, Gabriel. What about her? What season? What would you say about Gabriel?
Oh Lord.
No, he's over here with the wordsmith. Honestly, I would say salt, but specifically Himalayan salt. So
Okay.
That was our first. We were on a Himalayan salt kick.
I
Our
love
first.
Himalayan salt.
Every time we went to the store, it was
I
Himalayan
had a
salt.
big thing is Himalayan salt. But I would say that because, well, two reasons. When he's not around you, he's missed. And he doesn't realize it. And it's a big, like, something is missing. Like, even when I go around family or friends and it's just like, somebody, it feels like something's missing. Somebody's missing. And then when he's there, they're like,
That's what
it's just, it brings a lot of flavor. It enhances the experience that you're with. And I would say specifically Himalayan salt because when you know the difference, salt it can be overpowering something.
Yes.
Like you use too much of it, it's just like, okay.
You
But
ruin
when
your dish.
You ruin the dish. But when you use Himalayan salt, you notice it's a slight difference, but it enhances and it's almost like it makes it better. You're just like, I like that. And I feel like
Appreciate that, babe.
grown from just regular salt to Himalayan. When he's around, it enhances the experience. It's almost like because now he's more quiet and soft spoken. If you went on young Gabe, walk into a room, it's just that's Gabe. No,
she that's true, and I honestly kind of can see the salt comparison. How I kind of transitioned from regular salt to Himalayan salt because early on. People got this impression of me that I was very mean and very stoic and very callous. Some of that is true. Where I come from, got a little story, a couple of stories. Everything didn't work in my life, fall in my life the way that, others have. I came from a rough background. I've experienced roughness my entire life. I grew up and I had to be tough. And that toughness turned to being callous as I sort of grew. The immature version of me calling myself tough ended up with an older adult version of me that was sort of more callous. A lot of things didn't affect me. People dying. I'd gotten to a point in my life where there were people that would die in my life. I wouldn't even cry anymore. Because not that I didn't feel strongly about them. It was just I had accepted it as a fact of life because of how often it would happen. Lack of employment. That's another one of those things. Come from where I come from, there's not many opportunities. The ones you get, a lot of times, the turnover is high. Especially when you're 18, 19, you're jumping into some of them jobs. A lot of those jobs are designed for high turnover. They're getting you in and getting you out. And so I had to get over that and things like that. And so, it was a journey. She's been on a journey with me. And I'm still changing. And I'm still learning things about myself. And I'm still, liking certain ways and not liking certain things about myself even now today. And so
would I say, is it the gold or the pink?
Oh, so I don't know if we tried the gold.
Yeah, we haven't
yet,
tried the gold.
but the pink for sure.
The pink, okay.
Probably in another 10 years we'll probably hit the gold.
Okay. Well, you know what? I wanted to say that this was great. This was really great. This was great. I really enjoyed you. Seasoned, the young seasoned couple. I just wanted to say thank you so much for just joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Faith Over Facts. I am Robert Renee. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to Faith Over Facts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We have new episodes every Friday. If you would like to support the ministry by donating or purchasing Faith Over Facts merch, please do so by visiting my website,
RobinReneeMinistries.com. See you next time. Bye-bye.